Have you ever heard a somewhat coherent story about why COVID was actually created by the 5G antennas, or why the curvature of the Earth is not actually curved, it's flat, or whatever crazy conspiracy that people are making up? You haven't? So anyway, let's talk about these online real estate platforms, why their data that looks actually legit to the unprofessional eye might not be that legit, and why counting on them to make an informed decision can end up with bad times. Hit the signal. Howdy everyone, welcome back to the channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Yochanan. I own the Investory. I am a computer engineer, a real estate professional in Austin, Texas, and I read too much silly subreddits, apparently. Our mission in this channel is to spread real estate and financial knowledge, since the public system doesn't necessarily do the best job in educating us on these critical matters. Zillow, Redfin, and other online platforms have been dominating the market. Why wouldn't they? Anybody who's tried to use the MLS probably figured out that it was written by somebody who thinks that the user experience means that the user needs to have tons of experience in the industry just to use this freaking tool. These platforms, on the other hand, they look so much sleeker, so much easier to maneuver, so much easier to use filters, to look at the nice pictures, to understand what's up, and to just browse the market, trying to find the right suitable home for you. And I will admit, as a consumer, when my real estate agent sent me a link to the MLS, I trashed it and I used Zillow, because why would I use this deprecated system that does not give me any good experience? Now, while using these platforms to shop around is definitely okay and even advised, I wouldn't necessarily bet on them for getting the actual data. And that's where they get you. So you look at these platforms and they look to be so sophisticated, they look to be so well designed. And we think, oh, if they look this good, they probably have good information. Probably the data inside of them is worth something, because nobody spent $100 million on developing a tool without making sure that the data is legit. But unfortunately, this is a wrong assumption. And I've seen it time and again, how Zillow is presenting us with information that is inaccurate. So I think it's important to understand why Zillow and Redfin and these platforms exist in the first place. They exist in order to sell something. And this something can be advertisement, it can be leads for other realtors, it can be real estate if they bought it and they're trying to sell it. These are the targets. In order to do that, they need us, the consumers, to spend time on their platform. That's why their UI is so great. That's why the pictures are so easy to look at. And we have all the information about the schools and those type of things. But that's why perhaps they're not accurate with the actual data, because they don't really care. They don't need to educate us. That's not their target. Most consumers don't even want to be educated. They don't even need that they need to be educated. And that's why they can put data that is inaccurate and nobody is going to complain. However, when you are counting on their information to make an informed decision, but the data is incorrect, you might make the wrong decision, and that's what this video is all about. Let me share a story from the past week of something that happened to a client of mine. So after a lot of tours and effort spent on focus, we had decided that we're going to shop in a specific neighborhood. And this neighborhood is the designated neighborhood, and we're looking for the right property. And then we see this property that comes up to the market, and it's marked for about $850,000. And my client looks at Zillow and he sees that all the adjacent properties in his street sold for $1 million or more. He looks at this data and he's like, well, this is a good price. The market is softer and yada, 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 but I think it's a good value. Let's submit a full asking price, because he knows that there is another offer on the table. But I know the territory and I'm looking at this figure and something doesn't add up. Properties in the street do not sell for $1 million. So I go into the database, the actual database, not Zillow. Fair market value for this property is anywhere between $750,000 to $800,000. So the $850,000 price is too high. But my client already got into his mind that Zillow says that it's worth more, and the Zestimate says that it's worth more. So he's fine with paying more. And now there is this very weird or funny dynamic in which my client is arguing we should submit a higher offer, and I am trying to push him down, like reverse realtoring. Eventually, I was able to convince him that we can engage in a lower price point. Even though they have another offer, they probably see the same things that we do. And eventually, we did get the contract for way less than the $850 that they're asking for. But the main thing is, if I didn't exist, or if I just went with the flow and did whatever he asked, we would lose tens of thousands of dollars based on wrong information received from this platform. And that's exactly why you shouldn't count on online platforms without doing your own research. Now, my channel in general, and this episode in particular, is aiming to be constructive. I'm more about giving you some actionable items that you can use. So let's examine the 3 main things that these platforms are doing wrong, and let's speak about how you can do them right. So the first thing I want to speak of is the historic performance. Now, granted, the past does not necessarily dictate the future, or not even the present. But the past will help us determine what something is worth today. So knowing the past performance of comparable properties in the area will help us determine what is the fair market value today, and help us understand how do we want to engage with the property above this fair market value, below this fair market value, etc. The main thing is, in order to achieve this understanding, we need to look at historic performance. And these platforms that present you with historic performance are often wrong. Now, it doesn't matter for me why they are wrong, whether it's because they took the listing price as the close price, whether it's because they took the information from the wrong data set, or whatever. The main thing is they are wrong. The main thing is you can't count on them. And if you count on them to make an informed decision, that's an issue. So how can we solve it? We need to use a verified source of truth. The MLS might look really, really bad, but the information there is more accurate than any other platform that I am familiar with. So you can use the MLS. You can use other data sets if you have something that you are scraping or want to use. But the main thing is, don't just count on an online platform and assume that they know what they're saying, because they don't. If you are working with a realtor, you need to make sure that they are very proficient with the tool. You want to make sure that they don't just present you with properties that closed in the proximity. You want to filter them by several attributes, whether it's the square footage, whether it's the condition, whether it's the year built, or whatever. It's not rocket science, it's kind of simple, but you want to make sure it's being done right. The other thing I've seen in the past is people that are using the right data set, but they pick the wrong data entries, and that's just not going to work out. If you look at a property that is of a specific size and you take properties that are in a way better condition, the price is going to differ too. So you need to make sure you adjust appropriately, which actually brings me to the second point, which is property valuations. So some online platforms will suggest a valuation of their own. I know that Zillow has a Zestimate. How do they compute the Zestimate? I don't know. Dark magic. They just come up with a figure. And the main thing is, their figure is kind of arbitrary. Like, I've seen sometimes that they've been right, sometimes that they've been way overestimating, and some other times that they've been way underestimating. I'm talking about more than 100 grand of difference. Now, this type of difference will affect your decision. If you're trying to submit an offer on your dream house and an online platform is telling you that you are overpaying, it might affect your decision. By the way, vice versa as well. If they're telling you, oh, it's worth so much more money, and you're like, oh, we have to win this, let's put some more. Either case is not legit, and either case is a bad experience. That's why you must understand what is the fair market value of a property. The way to do that is to actually compute it. It's not, again, it's not rocket science. You can do that. Your realtor definitely should be able to do it. When you have enough experience, when you've seen enough properties, when you know how much things cost, you can evaluate, you can utilize data, and you can understand what are you looking at, what is it worth, how to engage with it in a manner that will save you the most amount of money. Definitely, the thing you shouldn't be doing is relying on some arbitrary number made by an arbitrary algorithm with no transparency that doesn't really mean anything. So when Zillow says that this property is worth 800 grand, it doesn't mean anything. It might be worth 7, 8, 9, or a mil. I do not know. So what should you do? You should ask your real estate professional to do a share screen with you and to look at all the data and understand how they compute whatever valuation that they are coming with. Or you can use any type of platforms. There are several platforms on the internet. But again, you need to make sure that you really trust them and you need to look at their track record. When I'm working with somebody, I always show them with full transparency everything we've done in the past. I've evaluated 250 properties. I was right 96 point something percent of the times. So maybe this gives me some credibility when I evaluate this property online with you while you look at my screen while I'm doing that. This way you can get a lot of confidence. You can understand what's going on. The thing you don't want to do is to just count on somebody because they have a gut feeling or they have experience, or just count on some algorithm because dark magic or whatever. Make sure you understand the figures that you are presented with. The third thing that these platforms are doing is trying to help you estimate your expenses after you purchase a house. So they're trying to tell you, hey, this is going to be your PT, your PITI. Here is the principal, here is the interest, here are the taxes, and here is the insurance. Now, this is actually kind of the easiest thing to do because everything is there. I have no idea why they are failing to do it properly. But the fact is, they do. They fail. When you look at these estimations, you will find a lot of variations. And when the platform is telling you that your monthly payment is going to be $1,500 more than your actual monthly payment, that might affect your decision to even buy a house. So it's really important that you verify this information. And I must admit that this specific thing causes so much confusion to me. Maybe you can say it through the camera. I'm so confused. I don't understand how can they mess it up so bad. Getting this information is so easy, but the main thing to consider is if your body can't even heat up a frozen pizza in the microwave, they are probably not the people that are going to make a fresh Napolitana pizza in their stone oven. Or what do I mean by that? If these platforms can't even do this thing right, how do we even expect them to do valuations, appraisals, estimations right? So how do you know the actual figures? For mortgages, you've watched my other video, right? In the other video about mortgages, I explained how you want to do your pre-approval and everything before you even buy a house, so you know what is the range that you are looking at, so you should know what your mortgage interest is. For taxes, you can review your county website. You can consult with your real estate professional if you don't know where to find it, or you can just Google it. But you want to get this information from there. You do not want to take it from the online platforms. And for insurance, just speak with an insurance agent. If you already have somebody, phone them up, tell them, hey, for this property that looks kind of similar to what I'm planning to purchase, what is the quote that I'm going to receive? Insurance is not crazy expensive typically, so it's not the biggest miss in the world to be a bit mistaken there. And I would say, as just a story, that a client of mine about a week ago asked me, how comes in Texas you pay, what was it? It was something like 12 grand a year for insurance. And I said, I don't know, because imaginary numbers, like it's not the case. That's not what we pay. Again, he used Zillow and they gave him like $1,000 a month for insurance, which is completely wrong, doesn't make any sense. And if he didn't know me, he would think that this is the actual figure and it might affect his decision to even consider hosting in the first place. All right, so we're pretty much done. So let's talk about the takeaways. What are the takeaways from this video? So the first takeaway is to make sure that the data that you are relying on is legit. You want to make sure that the database is actually a valid source of truth and you're not just counting on some online imaginary numbers that somebody made up. You're not just counting on some algorithm that dictated what they think the value is. You want to look at actual deals that actually closed of actual comparable properties. The second takeaway is that relying solely on some online platform is not best practice. You want to make sure that you see how the estimations are being done. You want transparency. You want professionalism. You want to make sure that the comps are legitimate, that the adjustments are legitimate. You want to make sure that you look at deals that actually closed and not some arbitrary imaginary numbers. And you want to make sure that you're making an informed decision and not just a guesstimation based on somebody's gut feeling or some algorithm dark magic feeling. And just like you're not going to trust some arbitrary algorithm, you're not going to trust this arbitrary agent. You want to look at what they're doing, you want to understand why they're doing it, and you can get educated by it, so it's just good practice for everybody. The third takeaway is that you don't judge a book by its cover, you judge by its content. So you're not going to just trust an algorithm because it's super pretty, and you're just going to trust an agent because they have, I don't know, that many years of experience. You want to look at their track records. You want to look at deals that they actually estimated in the past compare it to deals that actually closed, and see what is the difference. You want to compare estimations and actual valuations so you can see what is the win rate. You don't just want to trust them blindly, because then what have we done here really? If they don't have this track record, at the very least you need transparency. You want to look at the process, you want to see how they do the valuation so you can learn from it, you can get confidence in the deal, and you're not going to get surprised by some appraiser down the road because you've done your due diligence prior. The fourth takeaway is subscribing to my channel. No, but seriously, it's not the actual takeaway, but the actual takeaway is doing your estimations on your own, making sure that the data is legit, and in the channel, I'm trying to teach you about those things. So whether you learn from me or somebody else, doesn't matter. The main thing is be educated, understand what you're going to go through, understand what are the estimations. Don't get blindsided down the road when you are under contract already, because it's just a bad feeling. All right, that's pretty much it for today. Thank you for staying all the way through the video. I know it's a lot, but there's a lot of ground to cover. If you like this content, if you like this video, if you find it helpful, please leave us a thumbs up, share it, subscribe to the channel if you think that this type of content is valuable. It helps us tremendously. And if you're considering to buy something in Austin, sell in Austin, lease in Austin, whatever in Austin, feel free to reach out to us. You have the contact information here. Last but not least, drop us a comment with other topics that you would like me to cover, whatever that you think, other people think as well, and I would like to give you all the information that I can. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Okay.